Kering, when we say luxury, we mean sustainable. This has been our vision from the very first time, one that is shared by our teams all over the world. In 2017, we have committed ourselves to reducing our ecological footprint by 40% by 2025. So we are working to achieve that goal every single day. Because becoming aware of our impact is the first step towards reducing it, we are measuring our footprint at every stage of what we do, from the production of our raw materials to the presentation of the collections in our boutiques. This is how we learned that our supply chain generates 93% of our footprint. So that is where we are focusing our efforts. In Mongolia, we implemented a sustainability program that is better for the environment, the animals, and the herders. In New Zealand, lamb's wool and sheep wool are getting all our attention. And in China, it's silk. In order to inventory and promote the most sustainable fabrics, we have founded a library of 3,800 textile samples that we update constantly. But to reach our goals, we have to do even more, to innovate and to come up with new solutions and new models. That's why we nurture startups that are shaking up the worlds of fashion and luxury. And we are raising awareness in up-and-coming creative minds thanks to partnerships with the most renowned schools of fashion. Because our idea of sustainability goes beyond the environmental issues, our commitment is social as well. In-house, we are dedicated to making Kering a place that fosters diversity, encourages work-life balance, and actively defends women's role. Beyond the borders of the group itself, we pay particular attention to ensuring optimal working conditions hand in hand with our suppliers. We have already taken hundreds of actions around the world, and we're going to persevere on that path by sharing our progress with everyone in our entire industry. Because above and beyond ourselves, our whole sector needs to change in order to make luxury more sustainable. At Kering, we want to both inspire and lead that change.
I'm Marie Driscoll. I'm with Coresight Research. We sit at the intersection of retail and technology, and my focus is on luxury and fashion. I'm so delighted to have here Marie-Claire Daveu. Marie-Claire is the Chief Sustainability Officer, the CFO at Kering, the global luxury group that I'm sure most of Fashion Innovation's attendees know well. We certainly know all the luxury brands that Kering manages, from Gucci, Saint Laurent, Bottega Veneta, Balenciaga, Brioni, Alexander McQueen, really the stuff that dreams are made of. And in addition to fashion and luxury leather goods, Kering is home to many notable fine jewelry houses, including Boucheron, Palmoletto, Dodo, Ulysses Nardin, and more. Marie-Claire has a fantastic, stellar career in sustainability. She began in government service in the cabinet of the Prime Minister, moving to the Office of Ecology and Sustainability, and then to the business world at the drug company Sanofi Aventis Group. At Kering, Marie-Claire sets a sustainability strategy and objectives and implements best practices within the groups and the brand houses or the maisons. She has been pivotal alongside with Kering's CEO, François-Henri Pinault, in raising awareness and the global bar on sustainability. We couldn't really have a more perfect guest to join us to discuss fashion is sustainable luxury. So welcome, Marie-Claire. Thank you for being here. And let's begin with the obvious question and take as long as you'd like to answer. For Kering, what is sustainable luxury?
So first, hello everyone, and thank you for the invitation. I'm very pleased to have this conversation today. So I won't take 1 hour to answer your question, but what is sustainable luxury? Perhaps first, when we are speaking about sustainability, everything starts with the top management. And at Kering, as you mentioned, we have the chance to have our chairman and CEO, François-Henri Pinault, who is really convinced by sustainability. Who strongly believes that sustainability is an ethical and a business necessity. So for us, luxury and sustainability are one and the same. And why? Because we think that when we are making some luxury products, we need to reach the perfection. So not only by the savoir-faire, by the classical quality, but also by the fact that you pay attention to the people and you pay attention to the planet. And something that is very strong when you are in the luxury sector, it's also the fact that you set the trends. So that's why also we think that we have a specific responsibility to show that you can be successful in the business and at the same time to have a product, to have a process where really sustainability is in the DNA, in the core of the strategy. So I think it's really important to say that also modern luxury or sustainable luxury is an open and collaborative luxury. And what I would like to answer your first question is to share with you my opinion. I think that for a company today to want to continue to develop, to want to continue to do its own business, you can't do it if you don't include sustainability in your strategy. And like I like to say, for me, sustainability today is not at all an option. It's really a necessity. And when I think when you are in luxury, it becomes a duty.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's the duty of a luxury house, a luxury corporation, to make a difference. Like you're making quality goods and you're also doing it with purpose. And
Exactly.
the purpose and the purpose spans planet, people, community. So talk about Vision 2025. It was, you said it in 2017, a few years ago, hoping to reduce Kering's ecological footprint 40% by 2025. First awareness, then measurement. You realized that, you know, as you took stock, you realized that 92% of Kering's footprint was in its supply chain. Where did you start? Did you start with leather, gold? Like, please discuss the project as you've worked with the supply chain for a $17 billion company.
So first, so this strategy, it's really for us very important. It's a roadmap for 2025 and really to have concrete quantitative targets to implement our sustainability strategy. So the first thing when we are speaking about our vision, and to be sure our vision will become a reality, the starting point for a brand or for a company is really to be able to measure the environmental footprint. And now, nearly 10 years ago, we start with our EPNL, Environmental Profit and Loss Account. It's a tool that helps us to measure our environmental footprint, not only in our own operation, but also along our supply chain until tier 4. So it means cattle farming, cotton farming, mines of gold. And perhaps you saw it, but last Friday, we published our last EPNL at the level of the group. And for us, it's a very important thing because based on our EPNL, we have developed a pragmatic approach. We really try to set up a sustainable program for our most impactful environmental raw materials or processes, so like leather, like cashmere. And to give you some concrete example, we start many years ago with two brands, Gucci and Bottega Veneta, to develop a new way of doing tanning. So without heavy metals, so like, for example, without chromium. We put in place a specific supply chain for our cashmere. The cashmere is becoming from the desert of Gobi in Mongolia. And we work very closely with, at the same time, the headers, but also with the local community, with the NGO, really to be sure that we have a sustainable cashmere. And when I speak about sustainable cashmere, at the same time to pay attention to the biodiversity, to the environmental side, but also to topics like animal welfare. So we try really to identify for each raw materials, which kind of the most sustainable raw materials we are able to put in our collection. Same thing for the processes. And I'm very happy to repeat what we share last January, because we think also, and perhaps we will come back on it, when you are saying to do a sustainability strategy, transparency is key. So that's why we took the commitment to publish our results every 3 years. And last January, for example, we publish based on our EPNL between 2015 and 2018, the fact that we reduced by intensity our EPNL by 14%. Other things interesting to share, we were able to reduce by 77% our greenhouse gas emissions. Now at the level of the group, 84% of our energy is renewable energy. At the same time, for our gold, we have 100% of our purchase of gold with ethical gold. So it's really the basic things. If you want to implement, you need a tool to measure also your impact. That's why also we think that the EPNL, it's really a great tool. So we open source also the methodology to be sure that other companies in our sector, but also in other sectors, can use and can implement inside their own sector or in their own brands the EPNL. Because if you don't measure, you don't know where you are. It's like in the financial point of view, how you can say that you are earning money if you don't have a PNL. So it's the same approach for our environmental profit and loss account. And you can, and for the people who are listening to us, I encourage them to go to our website and to see our results, because now we are continuing to make some very interesting progresses, and it's very concrete.
Yeah, yes, I took a brief look at the report. I really have to do a deep dive into it. But the fact that you were able to increase your revenues and decrease your impact is amazing. And congratulations for that. And I have a few other things that I think are congratulatory. In terms of Kering and a few firsts in sustainability, in May 2019, you created the first animal welfare standards for luxury and fashion to improve industry practices and catalyze collaboration, which you just mentioned before. It's so important that we collaborate, and we can collaborate on sustainability across luxury and across industries. We can all and we will, the progress is made together, and the progress advances more quickly the more people are involved. And that goes to your open source efforts. You also became the first private sector company to partner with the Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and the Ecosystem Services to support diversity science. And a first for the luxury industry, you published the integrated report. You went on a roadshow for investors, which bravo, to inform and educate the investment community on green finance. And that's very close to my heart. So that's very exciting. So let's give Kering, Marie-Claire, Henri Pinot, a virtual applause. Job well done. Bravo.
Thank you, Marie. And I'm sure that the team and our brands are very proud to be applauded. So thank you for everyone.
Yeah, well, I know that animal welfare is like an area of special interest to you. Can you share like your passion and how you've directed Kering's efforts there?
Yes, alors, it's a passion that I will answer with my business. So, I would like to say that I think, of course, for luxury, to take into account animal welfare, it's an imperative. It's very important. It's very important for many reasons. The first reason is, of course, for ethical reasons. And I'm very happy to see that more and more people are very sensitive to this topic. Above all, inside what we can call the millennials and the Gen Z. And we can see that all over the world, our clients are asking more and more questions about this kind of topics. So to be sure that we can do very concretely something, what we did, and we published them last year, and I can say that we published the first ever standard for animal welfare. So we work very closely with NGOs, experts, university, but also companies which are working in the food industry to establish for every species we are using some specific criteria linked with what we call animal welfare. And what we are trying to do is really to implement, again, all over the world for all our species that we are using for making our products. So I would like to say also it's a long journey because you have to work very closely with your suppliers to be sure that it will be implemented. And the first thing you have to know is the traceability of your raw materials to be able to discuss with people, for example, in charge of the cattle farming in Normandy or in the north of Italy. So that's why also link with animal welfare traceability, it's very important. And in the same approach as we did with the EPNL, we open source all our Kering standards to be sure that other company will be able to implement. So it's the first step, but inside the company, we are very proud of that because we want really to have a leadership to really change also the thing linked with animal welfare.
Thank you. So like, we talked about, I mentioned collaboration, you mentioned collaboration, you have open source collaboration. How important is collaboration internally within Kering, across luxury and across the business ecosystem to accomplish our sustainability goals?
Alors, first, and you mentioned it and you are underlining it, there is different kind of collaboration. But there is something like a mantra, even if you are a huge company, a big company, if you want really to implement sustainability, and if you want really to change the paradigm, you can't do it alone. So you need to work with other people. So of course, it's very important to work with NGOs, to work with organizations, and you mentioned it like IPBS, but also IUCN, with also people really expert on climate change or like we mentioned previously for animal welfare. We need also innovation when we are speaking about sustainability and very concretely for us to reach our targets, we need to find disruptive innovation. We won't find them only by Kering. So we need to work with startups. We need to work with universities. So that's why we put in place specific partnership with Tsinghua University in Beijing. We are working with Parson. We are working with IFM in France. We are working with London College of Fashion. So many universities all over the world. And to give a concrete number, In the current situation, at the level of the group, we are working with nearly 120 startups. So you see, we have different kind of collaborations. And one thing also, it's very important for collaboration, it's to collaborate with other industry, because sometimes you have the same challenges. I take the example of the leather. If you want really to make some progresses on traceability, animal welfare, to be sure that the biodiversity is really taken into account, you have to work with the food industry. And inside the sector, I think to illustrate, perhaps you know what was happening last year with G7. François-Henri Pinault received a mandate from our French President Emmanuel Macron to create a coalition in our own sector for the G7 and to show that the business, without regulation, is able really to take some concrete commitments. So now I won't share the result in August because we have increased also the numbers. Today, we are over 250 brands which have joined this coalition, and it represents over 35% by volume. I would like to share with you that it's quite historical because it's the first time in our sector that this kind of coalitions exist. And we have three major axes to really work on it. It's climate change, biodiversity, and the protection of the ocean. And again, with the same spirit to show that it's not greenwashing, we are not only talking about sustainability, we took last year the commitment to publish in October 2020 the first results, the first very concrete results about this coalition. So you see, when we are speaking about transparency, coalition, coordination with other institutions, it's very important. So that's why also we are working with Camera de la Moda, Fédération Française de la Couture, same thing in United States. So we try really to work all over the world because, again, if we want to change a paradigm, we won't do it alone. And when you see the most important issue of our century, climate change, loss of biodiversity and resource scarcity, you can understand that even if Kering is great, we won't be able to change the world alone. So that's why also I'm very happy to have the possibility to share with you and to people who are listening to us.
Right. It's like an evolution of capitalism that incorporates collaboration without undermining the differentiation of how you go to market with your brands, etc. And that's so exciting. Well, you did mention transparency. Is there anything else that you would say about transparency?
What I can say perhaps about transparency in addition is transparency, it's about changing the whole system. So for me, transparency is key. And you have really to implement transparency on the environmental side, social side, animal welfare, to your customer, to your supplier, to the investor. So I think also you need to develop a 360 approach when you are speaking about transparency. And it's also a question of credibility because it's easy to say, okay, I will reach a reduction of 40%. Okay, but guys, what are you doing? So that's why even if sometimes what you are doing is not so good or if you meet some problem, I think transparency to explain where you are, which kind of difficulties you have met, and perhaps also link with your previous question to find together some solutions. So I think also in the new world, transparency and collaboration are two really keywords to illustrate sustainability. And people are asking for that. It's my feeling.
Yeah. We've had a number of questions come in from the audience, and one has to do with social responsibility. And I think that that's part of your program. Do you want to discuss that?
Of course. Of course, when we are speaking about sustainability, And the strategy for 2025, we have 3 pillars. One, it's linked about the environmental side, and I think that we spoke a few minutes ago about it. And we have a specific pillar on social side. And when we are speaking about social side, it's inside the company, so it's more linked with the human resources policy. So it's linked with diversity, gender parity. So it's really inside the company. For giving you a concrete example, we developed last year a global policy for parentality all over the world, but it's also linked with our supply chain. So working condition inside the supply chain. And our approach, we have our code of conduct for our suppliers, where we have social criteria and environmental criteria. We are making many audits all over the world to be sure that what we are asking by the code of conduct, by the contract, is really implementing. And after, something also to underline when we are speaking about our supply chain, nearly 90%, so 90, of our suppliers are based in Italy. So we are very European centric for our supply chain. But of course, the social side is key. And again, I encourage you to go on our website, and you will see that we try also really to implement.
Great. So, you know, as I think back across this year at Coresight, and I think basically across culture, fashion, the investment community, we entered the year with a big, strong emphasis on sustainability. And one of the reasons, consumers asked for it, employees asked for it, and investors asked for it. But with COVID, we kind of got sidetracked for the last few months. I'm wondering, has that changed your focus at all on sustainability? What we've gone through globally with COVID?
So first, for us, we consider that the crisis of the COVID-19 is not finished. And I think, because we have also, after every crisis, to be optimistic, I think one thing we can say between brackets that is a good thing linked with this crisis. Now more and more people are conscious that we have to take also into account what is happening in our natural ecosystem, what is happening linked with the biodiversity, because it makes the link between pandemic and biodiversity. So for us, what it will change, it's reinforce our strategy and the fact that we have to speed to implement. But again, thanks to the commitment of our chairman and CEO, I think we made now many years ago the right diagnosis. Now we have to implement, to speed to implement, and all the pilot projects we have developed really to push, to put them at scale very quickly. So it's a way also to encourage us to continue to implement and to be in the right path, and also to share all the best practices with smallest companies. For them, it's sometimes difficult when you create your brand really to think about all the aspects of sustainability. So if we can support them and trying to do a kind of mentoring by open source as best practices, I think it's important.